It's 10 o'clock, and this is Fox 10 Talks. Well, the story just continues to unfold in Texas, and now there are growing questions. We have learned that the Weather Service was sending out multiple alerts as the storm clouds were gathering and as the rain was falling, but there are some new questions, a lot of new questions today, about who was really in charge of the local officials' emergency response in Texas. Questions like who ordered evacuations? When did the order come through? Who first received the alerts, etc.? This as the death toll continues to grow. Good morning, everybody. I'm Ron Hoon. This is Fox 10 Talks. We've got a whole nother hour and a half for you of information and conversation on the big stories of the morning. We're going to get right to it because Texas officials earlier this morning held a news conference, and we're going to give you a pretty good flavor of what was being discussed there. I mean, they have had a massive manpower effort out there, really hope against hope at this point of finding anybody else alive. It is primarily a recovery mission. But at the same time, as you'll hear later on in this news conference, more questions and maybe not all the answers, at least not yet, as to who was really in charge. So here we go.
As of 8 a.m. Central Time, 87 deceased have been recovered in Kirk County, including 56 adults and 30 children. Identification is pending for 19 adults and 7 children, with 1 additional person still unidentified. At present, 5 Camp Mystic campers and 1 counselor still remain unaccounted for.
Extremely challenging. You know, we've got, of course, your Texas Game Wardens out there, your local, your state partners, Texas Task Force 1. We've got the National Forest Service out there. We've got A&M Forest Service. We've got numerous responders with specialized capabilities where we've got these large pile of debris. And with our canines and you know, when we're trying to make these recoveries, these large piles can be very obstructive. And to get deep into these piles is very hazardous. And those specialized teams have to go in there layer by layer because our first responders, also the safety of them is concerned. So it's extremely treacherous, time consuming, it's dirty work, the water's still there. So we're having to go layer by layer, peeling these off to make those recoveries. Officer wellness is a first responder wellness is a key component to these operations. So we're maintaining and monitoring our officer wellness, our first responder wellness. We're making sure they have the support. It's very tragic whenever you see human life. But to see a child and that loss of life is extremely tragic.
As I've told you several times, that is not my priority this time. There's 3 priorities. That's locating the people out there, identifying and notifying the next of kin. That is what I'm taking as my job as sheriff here to do. Okay.
With all due respect, sir, I think that the community here is asking these questions. What happened? When did it happen? Was the emergency manager awake at the time? Did they push the button to issue an emergency alert?
Sir, it's not that easy when you just push a button, okay? There's a lot more to that. And we've told you several times.
So did it happen, sir?
I can't tell you at this time. Okay.
You can't tell me if the emergency manager of the county actually issued an emergency alert.
Okay, Sheriff, who
Shimon,
is
just give me a second.
Emergency Operations Center? Who
Let him
runs
answer the question.
the emergency
I'll come back to you. I'm going nowhere.
So we understand you have many questions. Hang on.
No, I understand, but you're not gonna answer the question because that's up to the city manager and the mayor to answer.
Correct.
Question.
We understand you have many questions.
The judge is not here.
We understand that, but right now, this team up here is focused on bringing people home. That's our focus. All those questions will be answered, but the priority right now is bringing people home.
We totally understand that, and we value the incredible work that is being done by those first responders. We're seeing them out there muddy and sweaty and grinding it out day after day. But your community is asking these questions.
And we will get answers. Right now, all of our resources are focused to recovery.
Who was in charge of the Emergency Operations Center at the time that was getting any briefing?
Do we have another question?
So you can see at that point, they were just kind of ready to move on, despite the fact that it sounded like there were multiple reporters that were really trying to kind of hone in as to who was in charge. Now, the interesting thing, and Celeste joins as well. Celeste is at, let's see, I believe it's going to be 5 o'clock their time. Sometime later this afternoon, there will be a news conference from the governor.
Yes.
From Greg Abbott. And I would think, because there were not a lot of answers forthcoming there. I mean, those were specific questions like, who was in charge of the emergency response?
Yes.
Who decided there should be evacuations? But how soon or how late did those orders come down? Was the person who was supposed to be receiving that kind of information even awake at the time? Because, of course, the biggest problem here, so much of it has to do with, it's the combination of the wrath of Mother Nature, but the timing in the middle of the night.
Well, and I think you have to think about as well, anytime you have a flash flood like this, you have to look upstream.
Yeah.
Where were the storms happening upstream? What are the dangers as that water continues its way south? Because I was taking a look at the map of the Guadalupe River, and it actually ends up, I believe it's the San Antonio Bay is not too far off of that river. And it's south, I guess, southwest of Houston and south of Austin, not too far from that bay. And so you have to imagine that is right along, of course, that area where you could potentially have some flooding there in this part of the state of Texas.
Yeah, and just the historic nature of this Camp Mystic, and people who've come forward with their stories, and just the heartbreaking stories. By the way, a little bit later this morning, it gets kind of emotional in the cabinet meeting. President Trump was having a cabinet meeting when he tosses it over to Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security. She's been on the ground right there where the worst of it was, and the stories she has to tell are really very interesting. We'll see what happens when Greg Abbott, the Texas governor, holds that news conference later today, as people are definitely wanting to get some answers. This story, Celeste, about the bee attack that happened in Scottsdale yesterday, I think has really shocked a lot of people, because it was a deadly bee attack. There were one man is dead, 2 others hospitalized. They were out there just doing some roofing work on an independent living facility in North Scottsdale, and suddenly the swarm descends. Now, we don't know if they had maybe disturbed a beehive, but those are some of the questions that are being answered. 3 workers attacked. 1 dies. The other 2 have to go to the hospital because, according to bee experts, the bees in Arizona are, for the most part, Africanized, and they go on the attack. Listen to this.
You run into a beehive up there, and it's been there a long time. These bees are Africanized, so that's what they do, is they will kill you. So even if you were to jump off and you're breaking your legs on the ground, they will follow you and they'll just sting you to death.
That is really mind-boggling
and scary when you think about it. When he says they will, if someone were to jump off that building, they would follow you, and they would just continue to attack you. So then, what is your recourse? How do you save yourself or your family or your children?
Now, we want to mention that Anita and Ty in our 11 o'clock hour are going to be live with Captain Dave Folio, Scottsdale Fire. He's going to have a lot of information, not just about this attack, but what you need to do to protect yourself if you ever run into a situation like this. You and I were talking about it, Celeste, because the house that we used to live in was out in some old orange groves out there in Mesa, out by Falcon Field. And every once in a while, they would just kind of come up on you. And there was one time where I literally had to jump in the pool to try to get away from the bees.
Wow. And how long were you underwater?
It felt like forever. But I mean, I eventually popped back up and was looking around, but
that's pretty scary, though.
It is a unique situation. We have lots of people with citrus trees, and obviously the bees are necessary to kind of pollinate these trees.
Right.
And if you live anywhere near citrus trees, is something you got to keep your mind on. You were saying that you guys had a situation out on the lake not that long ago.
Yeah. So we have not had a ton of activity with bees at our home.
Right.
But we have had them out at the lake.
Yeah.
And so we were on the boat once, and a bee stung my son in the chin.
Oh.
And he was maybe 9 years old, and I remember thinking, oh, like, what do? You just see that bee sticking out of his chin.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just grabbed it and yanked it out at that
But
point.
the stinger was
but
still in,
the
right?
stinger was still in, and I
Yeah.
had to go in with like some tweezers.
Right.
Fortunately, we had like a little first aid kit on the boat, but
Whew.
Mama Bear jumps into action. All you mamas out there,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
got to do what you got to do.
The only force more powerful than these Africanized bees is Mama Bear.
That is
Don't mess with Celeste or about 1 million moms right like her.
exactly
Right,
because
yeah.
we'll go after you.
Okay, so that story just continues to unfold, but it's just a warning for all of us. If you're especially a recent arrival here in the Valley of the Sun, just take caution. Don't mess around with these bees.
Let me share a comment, Ron, if I can, from Sherry Nevada Pub. She says, I have bees in my Texas sage. I just noticed the other day after the rain when I was pulling weeds and trimming the trees. I wonder if I should do something about it. So she probably should call a professional, as Brandy the bookworm mentioned.
Yeah, well, especially if you spot a hive, don't try to take care of it yourself. There are plenty of
my
bee
goodness.
experts, including the one we just heard from there. They know what to do, and they have all the protective gear. Hey, there's another story that is just really interesting this morning, and it's a story with people. I hear from people, I never watch the news. It's all bad news. Well, no, this is a story with a happy ending. But boy, you can imagine the concern. A guy from Florida left the Jacksonville area. Here, I'm going to show you the video right here, as a matter of fact. So he starts out there in Jacksonville. He thinks he's driving to Atlanta, but he got off course. Next thing you know, he's in Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and it's all the way out here to Arizona.
How does he get so lost?
I don't know, but I do know this. Thankfully, he finally said, I'm out of food, I'm thirsty. He was able to get a cell signal. And good old DPS, they get some troopers out there. They find him in a remote location in Apache County. He thought he was in Atlanta. Apparently, he's in the early stages of dementia, but he was able to actually get out of that situation thanks to the heroic efforts of the Department of Public Safety. And they tell us that they're going to get him home now. So
Wow.
pretty wild story for sure. Hey, just like that, it's already time for our first quarter-hour break.
Are you kidding me, Ron?
I know. Mystery Cam, take a peek. Buddy, hello. Oh, by the way, Celeste once again is doing her dance. Well, I got to turn
Hello,
the
hello,
music
hello.
up here, so I guess the
Oh,
music. So
yeah.
that's the end of the dance.
That's when you have to stop dancing. But you know what,
Correct.
Ron? We're
Yeah.
not stopping.
Oh, really? All
We're
right.
just do 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 do. We're just gonna keep moving, buddy.
Go ahead.
Do 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 do.
All right. So we do a mystery cam. If you're new, I feel like we're getting some new viewers today, Celeste.
I think so.
And some returning viewers also.
So we have our buddy here from. Did he go Big D? Where did they go to Hawaii? Who went? Oahu.
Oh, Ethan.
Ethan.
Ethan's back from a little vacay time.
Yes.
Nice.
My computer's my
running
little
slow.
Yeah.
Golden Bruin is joining us from Queen Creek. Welcome aboard. And by the way, some other folks like Frankie D's talking about his daughter was stung by a bee in Scottsdale this very weekend.
Oh my goodness.
And in that case, they really weren't sure where they came from.
And Christine Carroll says, I'm allergic to bees, but I love oranges and they pollinate, and I also love honey.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of guesses. Joey says our mystery cam is Tennessee.
Okay.
We have Christine Carroll says Indiana. That's a really good guess, Christine.
Yeah.
Indiana's a great guess.
Okay.
Let's see, what else we got?
Let's see. I think I thought I saw Brandy the Bookworms.
Sherry Nevada Pup says, oh, poopers. I miss the MC because I went outside to look at my Texas sage for bees.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Upper-
Upstate. Oh, yeah. Brandy said upstate New York near the Catskills. I really like that guess.
That's a good guess, too. Virginia. I think we got a West Virginia from Linda Monterth and a Virginia from Paul Humphrey. I don't know if you said that already. And B. Miguel, Oregon.
I'm going to go with Brandy. I'm going to say the state of New York. What
and
about
I'm going
you,
to go with
Celeste?
Christine and say Indiana.
Okay. Here comes our answer.
Here it is. Milford, PA.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know if. Dave Brousseau said Pennsylvania.
David.
Big D.
Good job. Yeah, we got a couple of big D's here on the program.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so, and don't worry, you'll hear from Dave later in the Dave Cam. Oh, we haven't even rolled out our poll question. I'll just pop it up right now. What we love to do is get your comments. And there's the poll question. Tension over immigration enforcement. 15%, are they going too far? 15% say yes, they're putting fear in immigrant communities. 65% say no, they're just dealing with the aftermath of Biden's open borders. And 20% say, look, just limit their actions only to violent criminals who are here. Grab that QR code, and you can start to move those numbers around yourself. Celeste, this other story.
Yeah.
Every morning when we come in, there's a certain level of violence. We have a city of 5 million people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going to happen. But what a wild scene last night. In fact, our Dominique Newland was reporting throughout most of the morning show. There was a neighborhood where apparently there's a guy who had been shot. He's a gunshot victim.
Yes.
And he is I don't know if he was trying to get away from the gunman or what the situation was, but he hops in this guy's backyard.
It's crazy.
Out there at about 35th Avenue and Southern. And so we actually got a chance to talk to that homeowner, and here's what he said as it all went down.
Guy jumped my fence and was bleeding from the head. I guess it's a gunshot wound to the head. He used my water hose to rinse off. Another car had happened to come around the corner, spooked him. He jumped the fence again, ran.
So, that guy obviously, take a look. When we fly the drone, our Skyfox drone team, it just gives you a kind of a new perspective. You see some evidence markers there out on the street. The mobile command van had been set up. Looks like a pretty nice neighborhood. There's a park nearby. And, you're able to kind of look around at some of those nicer, newer homes that have been built in that area. But how crazy. I mean, you're just a homeowner, and the next thing you know, see or hear is some guy who jumps into your backyard, and the next thing you know, he's hopping into somebody else's backyard.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We had this similar thing happen in our neighborhood. I might have been like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, this guy is jumping through. My cousin at the time lived 3 doors down.
Okay.
He jumps in her yard, her side yard.
Now, is this the one that's the FBI agent?
This is the one that's in tech. She
Oh,
moved to
okay.
California
All right.
now.
I was
know.
kind of hoping it was the FBI agent. Don't
Well,
mess with her.
Actually, we can change the story, Ron, if you want. I mean, it might make it more exciting. But we, the cops were called and everybody came out of their house. It's a scary situation in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Somebody's jumping through yards. You don't know if they're armed or what's happening.
Gosh, yes. Okay. So we'll follow that story. We're also following what's going on in Fredonia. I feel like we don't talk about it. It's a really pleasant little town north of the Grand Canyon, right up on the far northern edge of Arizona. And now there's some sort of, I don't know if it's a paperwork snafu or the bureaucracy is making life kind of difficult, but they have lost their ambulance service because they're right across the border from Kanab, Utah. I think it's less than 10 minutes, like 7 or 8 minutes to get over to Kanab.
Yeah.
But they're a bigger town and they have more services, restaurants and a hospital, that type of a thing. So now it's been ruled that they can't do that anymore, even though the ambulance is just right over there.
It's so crazy.
They have to get an ambulance from Colorado City, which is, I think, about a 40 to 50-minute drive. Take a listen to what this one official there in the town of Fredonia had to say. You can imagine people are kind of up in arms over this whole situation. They want ambulance service if they need it, and fast. They don't want to have to wait 45 minutes.
Colorado City would be about 40 minutes away to get to us, where Kanab is 7 minutes away. Airlift would be another 40 minutes. So somebody that was dying would die.
That is not a good situation.
No.
Okay, so Coconino County says that it's the state of Arizona's Department of Health Services figured that the Kane County, Utah EMS units are not legally authorized to operate within Arizona. It's a paperwork situation.
Oh,
It's not like
the red tape, the bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's not like they don't know what they're doing, these ambulance drivers.
Yeah.
But hopefully they can get that resolved pretty fast, especially now that the glare of the spotlight is on the state. Let's be able to get these people ambulance service from just down the road.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
Okay.
very quick.
Hey, there's a story out there that we have been wanting to share with you guys for the last day or two, because it's such a touching story and it highlights the efforts that members of our law enforcement community will go to try to help an individual or a beloved pet.
Yes.
Let me just share a little bit more with you about it this morning. In fact, we're going to go to our Zoom setup right now.
Big D.
Take a look. There's Big Dave. Oh, it's a phone, or
maybe Dave can mouth what the guy's saying.
No, it's Carol. Carol's going to be joining us here from the Coconino County Sheriff's Department. Because, hold on. Let me get to that right video.
Oh, look at
Okay, so
this.
here's the situation. Carol, come on in and join us. Maybe you could explain this better to our viewers. There was someone who had died out kind of in the elements, and the dog, the pet owner's dog, refused to leave its side. Is that right?
That's right. So this is Carol Kappas from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office in Bisbee, Arizona. So on July 5th, about 10 o'clock in the morning, a gentleman was out in the remote areas north of Cochise County, in northern Cochise County, and he came upon a 2024 Nissan Rogue, and there was a woman who appeared to be deceased inside of it. And her dog was also in there, and the trunk or the hatchback of the vehicle was open, so the animal was able to get out and get underneath the car. So he called for our services. We had a deputy respond. They did locate the woman, and she was unfortunately deceased. And the animal took off. The dog took off. So we had to get our search and rescue involved because this is such a remote area. It's about 6 miles north of Mule Shoe Ranch, which is another 10 miles north of Wilcox. So pretty remote area. And the vehicle had sustained significant damage. Looked like it was off-road a little bit. The front tire was completely collapsed. The oil pan was ripped off of it. And after our initial investigation, we determined that the vehicle was rented by a woman, 60-year-old Mary Bursey of Los Angeles. And she was supposed to have the vehicle returned on June 27th. So the conditions there with Miss Bursey were that she'd been in the area for an extended period of time due to the composition of the body. We were able
Wow.
to get her transported out to Hardtop so we could have a mortuary, take her to a medical examiner. But in the midst of all of the challenges going on, the dog didn't want to be caught by any of the search and rescue members out there. So they took the extra time and effort to follow it, to make sure that they could get it to trust one of our canine handlers. She was able to get the dog back into her custody, and the dog just didn't want to leave the car, not understanding that the owner was not still inside of the vehicle. So we were able to get the dog, took her to the Wilcox Animal Shelter. During, again, the investigation, made next of kin notification, and the son out of Boston called and said he was going to be flying into Cochise County today to get Charlie out of our Wilcox Animal Shelter.
Oh, I think you bring up an important point. You talk about the canines and the dogs, and they are such an important part, I think, of the search process and the searches that you all conduct. What are your thoughts on just how important these animals are? First, of course, this animal and helping, bring all of you to this woman, but just in the search process, they're so important.
It's critical because they're actually another force multiplier for any law enforcement agency that has that, and specifically for search and rescue, for them to be able to utilize the incredible skills of these animals, whether it's underwater detection, cadaver detection, actually locating lost or missing people. So it's just a huge asset for the Cochise County Sheriff's Office to have that as part of our search and rescue, and for any department to have canines as part of their team.
And here we are, with somebody who just wants to come out and enjoy. I mean, there's so many beautiful vistas in the southern half of Arizona. I think we don't talk about it enough. Were you able to backtrack and determine, had she rented that vehicle here in Phoenix or Tucson, or where was she supposed to be returning?
We still have that part out of our investigation that we won't be able to release information on, and we're still waiting for the medical examiner to determine the cause of death and approximate time of death.
Well, it's excellent, and the work that you guys did to stay patient and stay with it, and that dog is going to find a new home, I think is just really, really worthwhile for us to be talking about. All right, Carol, we thank you for your time, and congratulations on a story where really deputies jumped in to help out, I think, in great measure.
Yeah, no kidding. Big thank you to all of you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are going to take another break. Boy.
Again? Ron,
yes,
again.
I know. But boy,
My
we got a lot to
gosh.
talk about in the Dave Cam. It's all coming up.
Big D.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Fox 10 Talks with Ron and Celeste.
Hello.
Celeste is back after a whole week's vacay.
I know. I'm feeling refreshed now, Ron.
Oh, good.
Ready to
Celeste,
go.
You are on top of your game. Now, a guy who might have been on top of his game, I don't know if we can really comment on his driving skills. I mean, it shouldn't have happened, but it did.
Okay.
But have you ever been in a situation where you're driving a vehicle, maybe a little, what did you drive like in your college days?
In my
Celeste?
college days?
Yes.
Little Cavalier, little blue Cavy.
Oh, a Chevy Cavalier.
A Chevy, a two-door Chevy Coupe.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. I could see you kind of scooting around town in that vehicle.
Yeah.
Were you more hanging out in Tempe back in those days?
I
or
was in
Phoenix?
I was in Tempe in those days
Yeah.
because I'm a Tempe gal.
Well, I don't know. Every once in a while, when the weather gets bad and the roads get slick,
Yes.
you just don't want to see a situation like this. All right, here we go. Look at this. Everything's fine. This is Iowa City, Iowa. They had some rain, but watch this truck driver. I think you're taking that curve too fast, pal.
Oh my gosh, it's an Amazon semi.
Oh, hold on now. Oh, no. Oh, no. Right into the woods.
Well, he had one of those deliveries that was between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. And he's like, I'm going to miss this slot.
But the timestamp is 2:45. Now, look, nobody was seriously hurt. That's the only reason we can chuckle
Poor
about
guy.
it. But this poor guy. By the way, they tell you to try to turn, which I think he did. Don't try to fight it if you're on ice
Lead
or
into
wet
it.
roads. Correct. So I think he kind of did try to do that, but they just got these, maybe
Do you think he was trying to take the scenic route?
Well, maybe he should stick to Highway 218 from now on instead of the side roads.
Poor
But
guy.
That poor guy right down. But the thing is, if the trees hadn't been there to break his fall, if the trees hadn't been there, he could have gone right into the river. This is in Iowa City.
So Mr. Pavoline in the chat said, so that's why my order hasn't come yet. And Dave Brousseau says, there goes my Prime delivery. Frankie D, wow, there goes my package. No wonder it was late, but hope he was safe.
I have to say, they do a really good job at Amazon of getting those. I mean, they built, Celeste, the largest Amazon fulfillment center in the world in a city you know well, Mesa, Arizona.
That has some of the best sunsets.
Thank you.
Around Mesa, Arizona.
Right. But it's out there off the 202 and Elliott Road.
The 202.
And, I mean, it's ridiculous. You can barely see the end of it. And sometimes I'll order some. It'll be at my door in like 2 hours.
That is crazy, Ron.
But every once in a while, when something's delayed by like a day or two, you really wonder what the situation was.
And it could be that guy.
And it could be a similar situation. So he came out of it, I believe, just fine. And so, again, though, there were some delays. There's
Poor guy.
No doubt
he was in
about
a
that.
rush.
Yeah, he was.
Yes, he was.
Got to slow down, take those curves properly. All right. Big tensions now in Los Angeles. Very interesting story. This is going to lead into our poll question, by the way. And it has to do with the latest ICE raid or Customs and Border Protection, actually. Are you familiar with MacArthur Park over in L.A.?
MacArthur?
It's that lake that's just to the west of downtown L.A. If you Google MacArthur Park.
It's right there, west of L.A.,
just
downtown.
West of downtown. It's really kind of a beautiful place. But there was an immigration enforcement underway right in that neighborhood.
Okay.
And the mayor got so mad, she got in her car and drove down to that area where the Customs and Border Protection and the federal agents and I think some military support as well were coming through that area. And she told them that they needed to leave. Now, here is the back and forth between somebody with the feds and with the mayor. And so just take a listen to this.
The federal government is not leaving L.A. I don't work for Karen Bass. The federal government doesn't work for Karen Bass. We're going to be here till that mission's accomplished, as I said. And better get used to us now because this is going to be normal very soon.
He's calling for you to get used to it. What is your response?
I'm not going to get used to it. I'm not going to get used to it because last I checked, I was elected to be mayor of the city. That did not include a federal takeover. So either you believe in democracy or you don't.
Okay, now here's some aerial pictures. You can see they had horse mounted. They had some of those technical vehicles as well. And so the mayor heard about it. She got out there, and you can hear sort of the back and forth. Now, there have been concerns raised about assaults on federal officers, up dramatically over the course of this last year. I believe that is part of what was going on. Here, you take a look, there are the horse-mounted units that came through as well. But it does lead to our poll question this morning, Celeste. I'm going to pop this one up.
Okay.
And then we'll let you kind of sort through the YouTube numbers, because frequently they disagree with each other. And then we're going to go to the Dave Cam for your comments. Ready? Here we go. All right. So what do you think? Are CBP and ICE going too far? 15% say yes, they are putting fear in immigrant communities. 67% say no, they are just dealing with the aftermath of Biden's open borders.
Mm-hmm.
And now 18%, so these numbers have shifted a little bit, just limit their actions only to violent criminals who are here illegally. Once again, there's the QR code. Let's pull up YouTube.
So
Celeste.
the numbers are pretty similar here on YouTube.
Okay.
What we have are, yes, they are putting fear in immigrant communities. 29% say that one.
Let me go back and just see. Okay, yeah. So
yes, they're putting fear, right? You know.
Yes, right.
The second one, limit actions to violent criminals here illegally, 19% on YouTube. I think it's 18% on our other poll.
Ooh, Celeste, good memory.
Let's go 17 now.
Still,
17, yeah, very close.
Really good memory.
And then no. Thank you, Ron.
Seriously.
I got some sleep over the last week. Hasn't happened in years.
Yeah.
No, just dealing with the aftermath of Biden's open borders. So the question, no, there's no tension over federal immigration enforcement in California. Are CBP and ICE going too far? No. On YouTube, 52% of you say that. So that one is winning both on YouTube and I think as well as on the other poll.
Okay. At 10:37.
Big
Dave. Now, Dave, are you ready with some comments? Because I also have the cabinet meeting today. Are you ready to roll?
Yeah, we've got lots of
The
really
cabinet
good
meeting.
comments here.
Who's going to the cabinet meeting? You and Dave?
Neither of us. Anyway, take it away, friend. What do you see?
All right, Christine Carroll says no one wants criminals, but immigrants make up a great deal of our economy. Their cultural contributions are numerous, and the Southwest wouldn't be the same without them. Kay Stockman, 6443, says they are definitely going too far. They said they would only be going after violent criminals. Now they're not even doing that. They're going after everyone. And did you notice the comment about 65 million meals? That's the number of Hispanics in the United States. So I'd say that things are going past the point of okay very fast. There's also the fact that 80% of farm workers are foreign-born. 50% of those are not citizens. And they mentioned basically turning them into slaves. We've gone way, 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 way too far. Then a couple more. Joyce Stinson in Litchfield Park says Tom Homan has been nothing but honest about the approach. He has stated time and time again that he is cracking down on violent criminals, and in pursuit of those violent criminals, illegal immigrants in the U.S., any other illegal immigrants will be deported as well. I have a hard time arguing with the tactic because it's founded in multiple decades of law enforcement. So amazing comments on both sides. Keep the comments going. Keep the engagement up. We love hearing for you.
Dave, can I just mention there was a kind of a weird photobomb situation going on while you were in the middle of the Dave Cam. I don't think you were aware of it, but go ahead and just look at the camera. No, just look at the camera. And then there was a photobomb.
That's great.
Yeah. Well,
It's
look,
amazing.
I'm looking at the remarks here. It was Frankie D. Sometimes people get a little restless. Frankie D about 4 minutes ago said, look, we're ready for Big D.
Where is he? Bring him in.
Right? And Isabella's coming up a little bit later, too. But you know what? We can have fun and still cover the big topics.
Yes,
of
we
the day.
can.
All right.
Yes, we can.
Shall we go to the cabinet meeting? This was really interesting. Of course, President Trump spoke on a number of different topics, but I thought the most interesting part was when he asked Kristi Noem to talk about her situation when she went down to the hardest hit areas in Texas.
Yes.
Take a listen to this.
Tell them when you met the father who was picking up the daughter's clothing. And
I had walked through the cabin where all the little girls died, and I had kind of fallen apart in there. But I walked out of the cabin, and a gentleman was standing there, and he said, "That man over there needs a hug." And so I walked over to him and I hugged him and I said, "Do you work here?" And he said, "No, my little girl was in that cabin." And he said, and I just found her best friend about an hour and a half ago. She had passed away. And he just fell apart. And so then we just hugged and talked for probably an hour about that. But then there was another, the grandpa was there looking for his granddaughter as well. There was a dad there of one of the counselors. The counselor was alive, but she was dealing with the fact that she had hung on to some of these girls and was trying to keep them out of the floodwaters, and had gotten hit by something and had lost 2 of the girls, and wasn't able to hang on to them, and was going to live the rest of her life thinking about that moment when she wasn't able to hang on to these girls. But these parents were picking up their kids' belongings out of the mud and throughout the camp and putting them in bags, and then one of the dads said, I knew 50 of these girls here. So I knew that was her dress and my daughter's friend's dress, so he was picking it up and putting it in a bag to return to her parents. And
it's so heartbreaking. And the reason I wanted to include that, sometimes these cabinet meetings run pretty long. But again, this is a streaming show. We can go a little bit more long form. And so there were close to 2 minutes worth of her comments. But, I mean, so descriptive. And here's a camp counselor. Imagine, how are you going to get through that the rest of your life, thinking about, I was literally holding, I don't know if it was one hand or 2 hands of one girl or 2. And then eventually she, through no fault of her own, had to let go.
Well, and I think you hear the story of that counselor, but then you hear the story of the grandfather who came looking for his granddaughter. And the father, they're sifting through these items, and you think, oh, gosh. Right. They find the daughter's dress. And it goes to show you, too, and I'm glad you included that, Ron, because there's a lot of times I think we take some of these things live and you listen to, like, the nuts and bolts and the meat and potatoes of what the search rescue crews are doing and how many helicopters we have. And, but we don't really hear the real stories behind what's happening.
Yeah, and we started our show off today with a good 3 to almost 4 minutes of the remarks of the officials, and they're approaching it from officialdom. Hey, she's a prominent American official.
Right.
But I think she was more speaking there almost as a grandma.
She was. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
About just the heartbreak that's going on in that community. Hey, Celeste, as we get ready to go to break, look at that beach town.
Wow.
Now, as we get ready to go to break, there's excitement building for Sun Devil football.
Oh, yes, there is.
And we have Robbie Baker live from Dallas.
Wow.
The other Big D.
The Big D.
Robbie, you can unmute and test your microphone.
Test 1 2 1 2. Can you guys hear me? Check 1 2 3 4 5.
All right.
And we welcome you back. I don't know for sure, Celeste, but that kind of looks like, oh, wait a second. I was going to say California.
Okay.
But I think it's more of a beach back east somewhere because of that house.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Off in the distance. Do you think that's like a bed and breakfast? Maybe they serve like blueberry scones first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee.
I bet it is the blueberry scones. It's either that or the muffins.
Blueberry Scone Cafe, Blueberry Scone Inn for you. Okay, so as we're taking a nice gander at this live look, we want to make sure that we are going to, one of the stories of the day is about people naming their vehicles.
Yeah.
Right? And so many of you have. And so we wanted to throw this out there in our chat as well. If you've named a vehicle in the past or you have a vehicle like a nickname for your car, throw it in there because we're going to be chatting about it in a few moments.
Go ahead.
I received an email this morning from a viewer and she sent me photos and names of her vehicles. Here's one of them. And Winona, a big thank you to you, Winona, for sharing your photos. And we love hearing from our viewers, right, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
Whether or not it's email or Instagram or Facebook, Celeste Fox 10, you can reach out. Ron, you taking new followers on Instagram?
Hooner Fox 10 on the IG. But what does Winona call her cars?
So Winona has a few names. She said she's had 4 Camaros, 2 named Baby B, this is one of them because it's bright yellow. So Baby B is one of them. And the blue one was, I believe it's Blue Venom was the blue one. Let's go back to that one, Ron. Do you have the blue one? I think
Venom,
it's
stand by.
Blue Venom's coming up.
Look at
yes.
Blue Venom. Ooh,
and then we
that.
have the yellow one was Baby B that we just popped up here a moment ago. And, Brandy the Bookworm says, Celeste, my van is named Daisy Doodlebug. Love that.
Brandy, that so fits you so perfectly.
It's so perfect.
Yeah.
And then she has a red one as well. I think we have the red one. The red one is called Sea Breeze. But Winona, thank you so much for sharing the photos, emailing me these, and for sending me these. And she says the dealership she bought these vehicles at, she said they didn't even call her by name, but they called her B when she walked in because they knew what she wanted. She wanted the Camaro, and they knew that it just had to be in a different hue of color. And then Mr. Pavoline said, my Chevy Sonoma now is named Mr. White. Because it's white. I was sharing with Rod earlier this morning. This is a Celeste story of the day. It comes on at 6:45 a.m. every morning on AZAM Fox 10 here in Arizona. And the story of the day was that a lot of people are naming their vehicles. They have nicknames. And I said, years ago, I had an Acura TL, and I named her Tina Louise.
Yep.
TL, and I'd call her, "Where's Tina? Got to go give Tina a wash."
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of brings you back memories too of like the Happier Days and Happy Days. That's a great show. But Gilligan's Island,
Happy Days,
the Fonz.
You know who's willing to talk about some happy days? Coach Kenny Dillingham.
Uh-huh.
And we have Robbie Baker now all set live, ready to go on Zoom from Big D from Dallas.
That's right.
It's Big 12 days. Robbie, set the scene for us. What's going on out there?
Yeah, hello, guys. Honored to join you here on the old Fox 10 Talks. Here, let me see if I can actually flip you around here, and I'll show you. This is
wow.
Welcome inside of the Star in Frisco, Texas. This is actually basically the indoor part of the Cowboys practice facility, and then they have an outdoor facility as well. So this is where the Cowboys call home. And you see the big stage up on the far end there. That is where the coaches have been coming up. Kenny Dillingham will be up there talking about ASU football in about 45 minutes or so. The 1:30 local time is when Coach Kenny will be up there. And you got ESPN over here. You got all the big media outlets here. And then, of course, Fox 10 here as well. Boots on the ground in Dallas as we're talking all things Sun Devil football. It's a bit of a different feel for the Sun Devils this time around because this time last year, this was in Vegas, and the Sun Devils were picked to finish 16th in the conference, and then they went on and won the whole darn thing. And this year, they're kind of the bells of the ball out here, very much in demand of the Sun Devils.
Do we think they are the favorites right now, or is there a Utah or a Colorado? What are you hearing?
Yeah, they are. So it's kind of funny. ASU broke the preseason process for the Big 12. They are not doing a preseason poll anymore. They didn't say it's because of what ASU did last year, but you can kind of read between the lines. The preseason poll is no more for the Big 12. So we will not have an official preseason favorite, but ASU is widely considered one of, if not the favorite, to win the conference and repeat as champs. Because they're basically, I mean, they lost Cam Scadaboo, they lost a couple guys on defense, but about 90% of the starters from last year's team are back. And that includes the quarterback, Sam Levin. When you have a quarterback that's returning of that caliber talent, then you're going to be picked to win some football games.
You know, I know we're talking X's and O's here, Robbie, but I know you're a Sun Devil. I'm a Sun Devil. Isabella's a Sun Devil. And as you were talking about all these things there, I have to say, Ron, you're a Sun Devil too. You're welcome at the table.
Good. Good.
But I feel like I got goosebumps as you're talking about this because there's so much excitement. The fact that they were here last year and were expected to come in last and then they won the whole thing. This is amazing. What a great start to this season with 90% of the guys coming back.
Yeah, and how about us at Fox 10, right? We became the official, media partners of Arizona State Athletics last year and launched, we do the Coaches Show with Kenny and we launched the ASU All Access magazine show. And then for the athletic department to go on the run they had too, and the interest in Sun Devil Athletics is at an all-time high. So it was beneficial for us at Fox 10 as well. And kind of to that point, Celeste, Brock Osweiler, former Arizona State quarterback, is here doing some stuff for ESPN today. And I caught up with him at the beginning when I got here around 8 o'clock this morning. And even he said it's been incredible to see ASU after a couple down years to just the national conversation about Arizona State, the university and the football program to have so many good things said about the school on a national stage is just fantastic.
Probably the only coach more than Coach Kenny that got talk last year in the league is none other than, hold on. Hang on here. Let me make sure I get the. There we go. Is Coach Prime?
Yeah.
So
yep.
What happens to Colorado if you just lose Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders? Are they going to reload, or what are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll reload. The transfer portal has been very good to them the last couple of years that Deion's been up there. It's funny because Kenny Dillingham is going to be the last coach at the podium today. And then the players will kind of have at the stages behind me here. They'll bring the players out once the coaches are done for kind of like what they call breakout sessions. And so Kenny Dillingham is the last coach today. And then Deion Sanders will be the last coach to formally speak tomorrow. So that just kind of shows you the pool of Deion Sanders here, too, when it comes to the Big 12, that he's kind of closing out the media day festivities tomorrow. So I'm sure that will be still a very talented football team. It will be a team that you mentioned ASU will likely be picked to repeat in the conference, but Colorado, Utah, Texas Tech made a lot of moves in the transfer portal. So ASU is a very talented team, no doubt. But the Big 12, I would expect a lot of parity again this year because from top to bottom, this isn't like the SEC where you got 4 or 5 schools that are very, very, very strong and then everybody else starts to trickle down. You could go 1 to 16 in the Big 12, and you could make an argument that these teams have a chance to make a run.
Real quick, Robbie, because we just got a quick minute here, but the new uniforms have been released, right? And I think they're kind of retro for the fans, anyways. They get to see. My husband played at ASU, and my son got home yesterday. He goes, "Oh my gosh, these look like the ones you used to wear, Dad." And they put Sparky back on the helmet, and I think for the fans, there's a lot of excitement about these new unis.
Yeah, the guys were wearing them today. So I will say in person, they look great too. There's some details you can't really see in the pictures. On the sleeve is kind of like the sunburst, like the Arizona flag a little bit. And then the biggest change was the lettering is more kind of like that retro vibe. And then the old uniforms are in the picture there. The new ones have just Arizona State right across the chest. And I think that's just great for branding, too, for the school, that anytime the highlights are shown and stuff nationwide, that the big, bold block letters of Arizona State right on the chest of the uniform is a nice touch. And then, Sparky coming back on the helmet for more games this year, it sounds like. So, and I'm a big I like the pitchfork, but I'm a big Sparky guy as well. So I like the more Sparky we can get on the helmets, the better for me.
That's so great. All right, Robbie, thank you. We can't wait for football to start. We're going to let you get going because it's going to be a busy day for sure. Hey, before we hand it over to Ty and Anita, we bring Isabella in on this camera right there. We've all been talking about whether we name our cars or not. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Celeste had the story earlier. The number one most popular name for a car is Love Bug.
Love Bug.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then
I wonder why.
Puddle Jumper is number 2.
Yes.
And then Old Flame, and then Buttercup.
I think it's funny that they're like female type of names. You know what I mean? Like Love Bug,
Correct.
Old Flame.
Correct. Because a lot of guys are like, no, I don't name my car, but But go right here to the Dave cam. Dave names his cars. Dave, what are you driving?
Yeah, that's right. My first car was Charlie the Corolla, and now we have a Highlander, so our family named it Hubert. So we got Hubert the Highlander. Very nice.
That's
Good.
cute.
So now you have a couple of girls. Do they get on board? Do they just call him, her, Hubert, or what?
Yeah, I have a 6-year-old son Levi and a 9-year-old daughter Sophie. They both love it. And whenever the car's acting up, you hear Hubert, one of those. Got to make sure they're acting right.
Oh, that's funny. Got a flat tire. Come on, Hubert.
Come on, Hubie.
Now, on the other hand, Isabella, what have you been calling your cars?
Well, I did name my 3 cars I've had since I started driving. My first car was like my dad's old car. She was an old Ford Explorer.
Oh, she was she?
So I named her Betsy.
Aww.
Like an old name, Betsy the car.
Yeah.
And then my next car was this beautiful like dark gray color, so I named her Stormy.
Ooh.
Stormy.
Oh, wow.
And that's fitting because you're a meteorologist.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then my current car, she's this really pretty like blue iridescent gray color, so her name is
Ooh.
Luna Pearl.
Oh,
She's
Luna
like a blue
Pearl.
moon, but then
Wow.
sparkly like a pearl. So
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you actually
LP.
talk to your cars?
I do.
Do you? What do you say?
I'm like, oh, you poor thing, when I get in the car and she's parked outside and it's super hot. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Oh, when it's 117 in
I
Arizona.
know. Sorry, I have to drive you today. How about you, Celeste?
I just call her the bus. She's just the bus because we haul kids in that thing.
Oh my gosh, I bet so.
Ron, you?
I've never named any of my cars.
Oh, no.
Like,
we need to
me
help
too.
you.
Yeah.
What can
Oh,
we-
look
what-
at that. You guys are both so helpful.
Wait, yeah, what
we
can we
help
name?
you.
What about, well, you have, what are you driving today?
Just an old beater.
Okay, why don't we call her
Betsy.
Betsy the Beater.
Betsy the beater. Okay. All right. We're going to hand it over to Ty and Anita. In fact, Ty's popping in right now, as a matter of fact. I don't
Oh,
think
here comes
Ty.
Anita's
no, it's
coming in.
Anita.
Come on, sister.
Anita, I think, does name her cars. All right. Here we
Yes.
go. Here she is, everybody.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Anita.
We're going to keep talking about
Yes.
the flooding that happened in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we had a big flood up in Payson
Yes.
Yes.
back in 2017 that took a lot of lives. So we have Kenzie Beach, one of our reporters went up there yesterday. Captain Dave Folio from Scottsdale
yeah,
PD
yeah.
conducts those kind of rescues.
Right.
So he's in here, but he's also going to talk about that bee attack.
Right.
Because they respond to those.
Yes.
And then we have a lovely young woman who's coming on who makes sure that doggies who need booties out in the heat get them.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye for now. They're up on YouTube next.
Welcome on in. Someone is a little bit tardy for the party. Anita Roman.
I'm trying to get my laptop. Hi.
Kinsey's here as well. Happy Tuesday, everybody. There's a lot of news happening in the world. We keep talking about these devastating, wildfires, floods that keep happening in central Texas. But we, not too long ago, had some devastating floods right here in Arizona.
Back in 2017, it was known as like the wagon wheel flood. That was up in Payson. I think you went up.
It's water wheel.
Water
right?
wheel.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, I made the same mistake.
Yeah. Well, I think I was looking at some old scripts as well. But after it happened, I talked to a young man who survived it. And I remember interviewing him in the park. You went up yesterday just to talk to first responders about what they see.
Yeah, we talked to rescue crews, and actually we were going to meet them in Payson, but they wanted to go to Water Wheel, the area they had been before. And walking up with them, you could see it brings back those emotions, because I think even if when you watch, all these rescues being made in Texas, this is their job, but they're also people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. And
Now, were there people up there yesterday, Kinsey, when you were there?
Yes,
so like it's back.
tons of
So it's
people.
kind of back to normal.
Yeah, it was 8 years ago when we had the flash flood up
It
there.
doesn't seem like that long ago, does
It
it?
happened on a weekend. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a large family there celebrating a birthday.
A birthday. Yep, a birthday. And yeah, you're looking at it right now. And I think being up there on such a beautiful, calm, blue sky day, it shows you, I mean, this is the creek still. It's so still, so calm, but it's not a rainstorm where you're standing. It's a rainstorm that you can't even
Miles
see,
away, potentially.
that changes your circumstances when you're standing in an area that gets a flash.
So,
flood.
Kinsey, what were they? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the situation there is that there was a flash flood warning that was issued. However, there was no cell phone service in that area.
And that's what we talked about last night, because, I mean, we're out there reporting, and I can't reach any crew or any anyone back here at the station because there is no service. So that's kind of a gray area when you're somewhere with no service, that even if there is a flash flood warning issued, there's no early warning systems down there, like some sort of siren or something like that. And the commander said yesterday, when you have rushing water like that, you wouldn't be able to hear it anyway.
The sirens.
Yeah, if there were sirens down there. So they've talked about doing that, but it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, there was a lot of emotion from them yesterday, and still 8 years later, you can see so much debris still piled up in areas, which was really interesting.
Now, Kinsey, I know we kind of talked about this, but I remember the story well, and I don't remember if was it actively raining that day when those folks were there, or was the storm kind of a ways away, but the flooding obviously went downstream?
I don't think it was actively raining. It was a pretty decent day, and it felt for them, especially like it came out of nowhere. The monsoon storms, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You can have a perfectly sunny day, and
then
all of a
boom.
sudden that storm is going to roll in, and it hits, and you will have flooding, massive flooding, even here in town.
And
I
so
mean,
so I was just going to ask, kind of what tips did they offer if folks are going to be heading up to? I mean, because that's such a beautiful area, and obviously when it's 117 down here in the valley,
just gonna say.
We want to head up a little bit farther north where it's a little bit cooler and play in the water.
People go escape the heat from, Phoenix, and up there, I mean, it was like 20 degrees cooler yesterday. It was so nice. But he was just saying that even if you're going in one area, look at a radar, pay attention to the weather, because you can be somewhere, like I said, is blue skies and beautiful, but it's something 5 or 10 miles north of you or just outside that you're not seeing that. He said that's all you can really do is pay attention to whatever weather is north of you. And I know our weather team has put together an incredible monsoon special as well. I watched that, and that was just so many good tips and tricks in that. I don't wanna,
Sherry Nevada Pup says, I just saw a video from a family that was there that day. Crazy, incredible that they all lived. And then Dave says, I used to drive that thing regularly over 100 down the country roads between Bridgeport and Frankenmuth, where he grew up in Michigan. So I know that was nuts. So just kind of talking about that area.
And I think a lot of people watching the videos, paying attention to the news of the tragedy that happened in Texas, you don't want to compare, but you look at what we have here in Arizona. Arizona, and it is similar
very,
landscape. And as you watch this right now, it's like he was explaining yesterday, when it goes into a canyon like that,
There's nowhere to
it's a
go.
wave of just a powerful wave, and it's not stopping for anyone.
Well, and if you think about it, you're looking at that canyon. You can't grab onto the canyon wall to try
No.
to save yourself. And I've been searching desperately through our archives. I'm trying to find this young man who I interviewed to rewatch his story. But I remember he was able to somehow pull himself up on a boulder and was able to get away from that water and then reunited with his family. And it's just terrifying.
Yeah, and that family that was celebrating the birthday, some of them made it and some of them did not. And I can't imagine. They had, kids as young as a 1-year-old and generations of the family were there. So, we're trying to reach out to them as well. And I think both first responders and people that have dealt with deadly flash floods in our state, when you see this happen somewhere else, you feel because you've been there.
10 family members total killed.
Horrible.
Unbelievable.
Thank you, Kinsey.
Yeah,
we
thanks for
appreciate
coming
it.
in,
That's
Kinsey.
that's great
We're
insight.
gonna have to
Thank
bring
you.
over, Kinsey. I always say we need to have you on when we have a fun, uplifting
story.
story. Because every time you
Kinsey
come
is
on,
a very serious reporter, though.
Unfortunately.
Well, can you go talk about some puppies or something?
I'll pitch that and I'll let you know how it goes. I'll say this is courtesy of Ty.
Ty and Anita want
Would
some
like you
happier
to cover
news on
puppies.
Fox 10 Talks, but we always love when you come in.
Yes,
So thanks for
thank you.
coming.
Well, we
in.
are going to talk to some people today that have spent summers, near the Guadalupe River, and their happy memories there.
Okay.
So maybe
We're going to have you back tomorrow
Okay.
then.
This
Thank
is your
you. We
invitation for
appreciate
tomorrow,
it. Yeah.
Kinsey.
We're going to continue talking about this topic.
Yeah.
So not only the rivers and all that, because Kenzie's perspective was very interesting. But what about the first responders who do have to go in, who train for a rescue like this? So Captain Dave Folio, Scottsdale. I think I was out in the Scottsdale area a couple of years ago. And I saw you out there.
Yep.
And there was a wash that was flooded, and you guys had to lower the fire truck, the ladder over it to get 2 guys out who were stuck in this flood.
Yeah, that's one of our options. And 2 years ago we had the lady that was stuck out in the middle. So when these events happen, you guys were just talking about it. It usually happens way up in North Scottsdale, Cave Creek, Carefree, where they get immediate 2 inches of rain. That rain has to go downhill somewhere, and it all, like when we golf, we know it goes downhill, and it goes down towards downtown. So it's running through our green belt. So really important in these situations, you have a chance to make a real quick decision, and you have to make it quickly. When you see the water start running into our green belt, you need to make a decision to get out of the green belt, because it's only going to get worse. And like you saw in Texas, the tragic event that happened there, and our hearts and prayers go out to all those families. There's still recovery work going on there. And like you said, the first responders, what a horror. We train for swiftwater rescues and stuff, but we don't train for, going out and looking for 10, 15, 20 children.
Right.
Last year, catastrophically, we lost 27 people total in flash floods across the United States. So to put this in perspective, they've already lost 100 there. So you have to make a decision quickly. Follow the alerts. We all have had our phones go off with our alerts in Arizona telling us that something's coming, a flash flood, but just be aware of your surroundings.
Have you gone into those raging waters?
We have.
What does that feel like for you?
So, and we're going to, I'm putting out a video today on our social media that kind of shows you what to do. I actually got in a stream where the Verde and the Salt River come together, and I jumped in to show people how to survive one of those. If you get swept off your feet, you got to really get on your back like a bug, use your feet as bumpers, and be aware what's coming down behind you, because there's branches and stuff coming down behind you, and then there's what we call strainers. You really want to be able to look ahead of you while you're in that water and as calm as you can be. Use your feet as bumpers to go around debris and get to a high spot. If you can get to a rock. So this one, I get up on a rock and the boat comes out and gets me off, and then I get swept off and go down an area that's really sketchy. That actually, when we were doing this drill and filming it, it sucked me under. So and it's just one of those things. I had a vest
and
on.
you're an expert.
Yes.
You're a pro.
Yeah, and we had downstream, upstream people, throw bags. We had the whole thing set up, but the point was, you got to make, that's a split-second decision. It really is for survival. I had to turn and swim as hard as I can upstream, because what you do is when you lean, it pushes you towards the bank. and then you need to get high. So be really, if you're out camping, be really aware of your surroundings. If there's a storm and you can hear it in the distance, that water is going to be going downhill somewhere. Just get to higher ground quickly.
We had Crystal on, our meteorologist, yesterday, and she had a graphic that showed, and I thought it was just so shocking.
Mm-hmm.
A foot of water can move a SUV.
Yeah, so really turn around, don't drown is our, we've been saying that for years. We 5 years ago, I had a van that went down 77th Street and Roosevelt area where it goes through the Greenbelt. Well, I remember, I'll never forget her saying, but this is the way I always go. Well, no, not today.
No,
like
my
it looked like it
goodness.
was 3 feet of water, but that's too much. Actually, 6 inches to a foot will sweep your vehicle down the stream, and 6 inches of water will absolutely sweep you off your feet.
That's
It'll
incredible.
catch you
Because
off guard.
that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's
And then you're
absolutely
in the
nothing.
parks, right? You've got the strainers from the park benches that are attached to concrete. You've got trees you're going into. You've got the waste barrels. So if you get stuck down in one of those eddies, it could be absolutely tragic, and you could lose your life.
Yeah, some really scary stuff. While we've got you here, we wanted to ask you about this, what happened yesterday with that bee sting death.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes left. Can you kind of just break it down exactly what happened? Because it's a pretty scary story.
And what do you do if you do come across a big swarm?
Yeah, so right after a little after 9 o'clock, we got a call for a bee situation. So immediately our crews get into their bee gear. We have hoods that we put on. We put on all of our gear. We tape our wrists and all that. When those crews arrived yesterday, they quickly noticed that they had a construction crew that looked like they were working on the roof, and somebody was down inside the actual cherry picker. So it looks like they had been attacked in the cherry, stung in the cherry picker. Really important too. This is one of those things too. You recognize a couple bees around you, you have that split-second chance to get away from the large hive that's going to come, because when you start swatting at bees or you hit the one bee, it puts off the scent to alert the other bees. And then they start attacking. So they're very protective of their hive, their colony, the queen. They're protecting the queen that's in the colony and the hive. You need to get away from that.
Once they start attacking, how do you? Because if you're running and they're swarming you,
you want to get out of the area and get inside a car or inside a building to get away from
even
the rest.
Even if they're all around you,
you're going to take some of those bees with you, but calmly, as calmly as you can. When they start attacking, get inside a vehicle or get inside a building. I would rather have 10 to 15 on me than a couple thousand on me, and that's what usually happens, because the swarm comes out and then they're just everywhere.
Can you jump into a swimming pool?
That's not a good idea. They will actually hang out above the swimming pool while you're trying to breathe, and that's not a good idea, because what they're trying to cut, and then they say too, when that happens and you start getting attacked, cover your face, your mouth, your nose, and your ears, because they're trying to get into those areas to sting you.
Goodness gracious! Wow.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming in. We do
Thank
appreciate
you.
everything that you do and some great information.
Be safe out there.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're taking a live look from our camera that's in Tempe, looking over at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport on this Tuesday morning. A nice start to your day.
Well, a nice start, but a warm start. Tomorrow, it's going to be 117 degrees. That's tough on people.
And it's tough on dogs.
It's really tough on the dogs.
And
Their
that's
paws.
why we have our new best friend. Well, you've been our friend for quite a while because you've been on the show before. This is Jordan.
Not the stream.
Not the stream. This is new
This
for
is
you.
new for you. Thank
All right,
you.
so Jordan, give us kind of a brief rundown because you are so smart, so talented, and have achieved so much at such a young age. How old are you?
I'm 16.
16 years old. Tell us about this nonprofit that you started.
So this is Laws for Paws. This is my own 501c3 charity. And what we do is we do a lot of direct aid with homeless and their pets, hence the dog boots. As well as this, we also do legislative advocacy.
So Jordan, how did this all come to be? How did you get interested in doing this?
So my mom and I, we've seen people walking on the street.
Shout out, Mom.
Hi,
Shout
Mom.
out, Mom. We've seen people walking on the streets and they don't have dog boots on. And I would be really frustrated. And I'd tell my mom, why don't they have protection for their pets? And she made me realize that not everybody has the resources. And so that's really why I wanted to start this.
How tough is it? You're going to be a junior in high school. So how old are you?
I'm 16.
So you can barely drive,
Yes.
and you started a nonprofit. How difficult was that process? What was that process like?
So it was pretty easy. I did a lot of things. I kind of multitasked with it. I did a lot of things in school. So I filed for my EIN in school.
What's that?
Yeah.
What's an EIN?
It's an EIN number. It's basically establishing the business.
Okay.
And then my mom helped me file for the articles of incorporation. And then I registered for my 501c3 status, which is the charity. And after that, it was pretty much easy from there.
Jordan, you
Very
said your mom
impressive.
helped you do this, but does your mom have any background in running nonprofits, or how did you kind of know how to all the steps? Because to me, that's daunting.
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
know.
Google.
A lot of Google.
A lot of Google, and then and then we've also been blessed to have such a strong community with rescues and other nonprofits, and so they've been a big help, and they've given us so much information, and everyone's been really supportive.
Okay, so how long ago did you start this?
I started this in January of 2024.
Look at
Wow.
you. So Linda says, good morning to you. And Frankie D says, you're awesome starting a nonprofit at such a young age. Great job to you.
Thank you.
Any advice for younger people who have something that they want to do, they want to make a difference when it comes to starting a nonprofit or even a business?
Yeah, if you have a passion, just go for it. No age is going to stop you. You're not too young to do anything. If you really want something, go and get it.
So Jordan, let's talk about the nonprofit. And how do you then disperse these booties to the individuals who might really need them?
And where do you get them?
And keep their pets safe.
So we get these off of Amazon because this is a great brand, Demiku.
Hold on, let me show it. Hold on, I'm gonna hold
There
it
we
up
go.
right there to that camera.
Right
there you
here.
go.
So we use Demiku boots, and we get these off of Amazon, and we disperse these because we are partners with Dogs Day Out AZ, which is a nonprofit based in Chandler, and they've done incredible work. So they hold these things called outreaches, and outreaches is once a month now. It used to be every 2 weeks, where they will go downtown and they will distribute these boots, as well as my mom and I, we will go directly on the streets and distribute these boots. And then there's through Dogs Day Out AZ boots on the ground team members, so they'll go throughout the valley and distribute them.
We've got another comment for you. Lil Philosophy says, every time I see dogs wearing those, it makes me laugh. But it does. But I know it helps them, especially in the heat. So that's true. It's a huge protector.
It really is.
When you're out there on the street and you're passing these booties out, what type of reaction are you getting from people?
So a lot of people at first are pretty scared. They're untrustworthy. But once they realize that we're here to help and we're here to support them in any way that they need, then they're open, and they introduce us to their pets, and they tell us a little bit about themselves, and it's amazing.
What is that like for you to know that, you're doing this not out of the goodness of your heart. It is out of the goodness of your heart, but you have been doing this kind of day in, day out. What is it like for you when you kind of, at the end of the day, know that you are helping individuals and their pets out there?
You're making a huge
difference.
It's my favorite thing ever. I live for this, so this is definitely my life's passion. This is something I've been wanting to do since I was 8.
Wow.
So everything that I do, I'm just incredibly grateful for.
That's incredible. Now, we mentioned that you're a junior. So this is the time when you start looking at colleges and your future. What's next for you? What do you hope to do?
So I wanted to go to an East Coast school. I want to be a lawyer. But since I've started Laws for Paws, I've realized that there's so much that needs to be done in Arizona. I'm really considering in-state, and I want to be here so I can run my nonprofit and be with the rescue community.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, so you started a little over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago. How many booties have you passed out? Are there portions of the valley where you're seeing greater need than in other portions of the valley?
Definitely. So downtown, and then kind of crossroads, like off of Van Buren, that's a lot of dogs down there. Thomas as well. We've distributed over 2,000 dog boots.
That was my next question. I was going to ask, how many of you? 2,000. That's incredible, Jordan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do have a question from Arizona Blondie Crazy Crew. She's asking, how does she order a set? And you mentioned, where'd you get them?
We get them off of Amazon. So
Okay.
they're called Dimicoo, Dimicoo.
Okay.
It's a great brand because they have a rubber bottom and they're mesh, so that it lets the dog's paws breathe because they release heat out of their paws.
Wow.
How?
I didn't know that.
Like when you are ordering these, I mean, you've got all sorts of different sizes. And if folks at home want to help you, how can they do that? Can they like sponsor, or like do you have an Amazon wish list, or how can folks maybe help you?
So we do have a wish list, and then we also have a donation link on my website, lawsforpaws.org. That's where we do most of our business. That's where you find our social media, stuff like that.
And it's called Laws for Paws?
Yes,
Okay.
lawsforpaws.org.
Sherry Nevada Pup says, Mom, this little girl is going places. Kudos to Mom for raising such an amazing
Right.
human. So we know the reaction that you get from the people because you can chat with them, and you said at first they're a little standoffish. They don't really know what's happening. What about the dogs? What kind of reaction are you getting from the pups?
So most of them are good. I think the breed that scares me most is Chihuahuas.
Anita's a Chihuahua owner.
Really?
Yeah, he's going to be 18 August 6th.
God.
We hope. We hope he makes it to 18.
I mostly hand the boots to the owners, and I'm like, can you please put them on? If it's a Chihuahua, they snap at me. I've been snapped at probably like 20 times
by Chihuahuas.
By Chihuahuas.
they're very protective.
Territorial, right?
Territorial. We've been showing pictures of you throughout your interview. Of you actually, you'll go out there. You're not just handing the booties over. You're actually putting the booties on the doggies, and you're showing the owners how to do that. Dogs are very expressive, and you can tell if a dog is happy, if they're grateful for something.
You really can, yeah. They don't appreciate the boots always. They walk around and they
kind of
do that, like,
they kind of
weird,
do that weird little like what's
thing,
happening.
yeah.
They look at me and they're like, I hate you
I
so
don't
much.
like you. I don't like you. But they get used to them, right?
They really do. Yeah, it takes a couple minutes, but they're there.
All right. So go ahead.
Well, this is an interesting comment from Dave, who says, I think all dogs in Phoenix should get government-issued boots and shoes. So you work with one agency. Have you ever thought about reaching out to the city of Phoenix, the city of Chandler, whoever would listen to say, let's get a partnership going?
I'd love to, and I've thought about that a lot, and I know a lot of other organizations have thought about that. I don't know how feasible it is, just because we have trouble getting animal laws passed in Arizona.
It's tough.
It really is. So I would love to, though, in the future.
Well, we just had Jerry's Law signed yesterday.
That was
We actually
incredible.
had Jerry, and Ty was on vacation, but the Jerry was actually on the stream the day that it passed in the Senate, if I'm not mistaken, and then went to the governor's desk. And so that was really exciting.
was so
It was
exciting.
really cool to meet him, and it's really great to see more advocacy for the animals, just like children. They can't speak for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan, where did this all come from? Like, can you think of anything where this kind of like stemmed of like, I want to be kind of an animal advocate when you were younger?
My mom, she took me volunteering. We volunteer with this incredible organization, Love of Dogs Fund, located in Phoenix. And I've been volunteering with her since I was 8, and we did fostering, dog washing, dog walking. We did adoption events, and I think that's really where I found my passion, because I saw these dogs, some of them come out of horrible situations, and I was like, I want to be the
Yeah.
difference. I want to make a change.
I love that.
That's an
Thank you.
easy thing, I think, for people to do. Kids, kids your age, maybe younger, for adults to do. Volunteer, give back a little bit of time. 'Cause even if you can't spend a lot of money giving back, maybe I can't donate $100 for, so that you can buy booties. Maybe I can't go out on the streets, but I can go to a shelter or I can go to a nonprofit, an organization, and say, I'm going to give you an hour a week or what have you. And I think that when you're that selfless, you're getting back so much.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's so many places you can go and volunteer.
As a kid, though, what can you do? You know what I mean? Like, I know as adults, they're going to trust us more.
Yeah.
What do they trust you doing as a kid?
So it depends on where you are. You can volunteer at the Humane Society at 16. So I've started that process. And then, I mean, I've gotten to the point with Love of Dogs Fund where they ask me personally to foster instead of my mom. But
mom's nodding her head back over there.
Other organizations, there are limitations, and so it's something you kind of have to work around.
But you can do it.
You can do it.
We got more comments.
A lot of people are giving you kudos, Jordan.
Jen Wall says, this girl is a hero. Lil Philosophy says, yeah, true. Some dogs are chained up out in the heat right now as we speak. So Chris says, she's so young, talented, and well-spoken. Deli Shift. Good job, Jordan. Keep up all the work.
I think that someone says, twin. Is that your friend that's watching? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
maybe
This
typing
is-
quickly.
We need more young people in the world like this. You're making a difference.
And adults.
That's true. But
More-
it starts younger generation. I think we're
big,
done for.
We're very big animal lovers, and when we have opportunities, we bring the animals in to help try to get them adopted. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, even just walking them. Jen Wall says that should be illegal, chaining an animal out in this weather, and that's part of what Jerry's Law is about.
Yeah.
Now owners have to make sure that there's adequate shelter, water, and food, and not just like a puddle of muddy water.
Yeah.
Do you ever need help? You mentioned kind of the donations, but do you ever need help from the community doing what you do, is passing these out? And if there is that need, how can folks maybe find and jump on board with you?
Absolutely. We're happy to have help. lawsforpaws.org.
Okay.
Reach out on a contact form or on our Instagram, whatever it may be, or an email. We would be happy to have volunteers.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then you would actually have them kind of go out and disperse these then? Is that kind of how it works? Okay.
Yes, it would be.
And then if they want to help you buy booties, can they donate like on Amazon or?
We have a GoFundMe.
Okay.
And so we actually just hit $20,000.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
How many booties can you buy with $20,000?
2,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Look at you.
Yeah.
You're smart.
That's fantastic.
So it's
Very
been
cool.
incredible.
Yeah. So 2,000 more dogs here in the valley are going to have protection from the scorching hot pavement
Cute.
because of Jordan.
You're awesome, Jordan.
You are Jordan.
Jordan texted me back in like March. I think I was on vacation. She's like, we've got booties. Let's people know.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were finally able to get you back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Stay close. Okay, you guys, we'll be back tomorrow.
We sure will.
Maybe with puppies. I don't know.
Let's hope, right?
Oh, kittens.
Kittens. Not as good as puppies, but we'll take it.
Oh,
See you tomorrow.
Bye.